Hi, welcome everyone to Event Ready Podcast, where we talk about our roller coaster ride of being a live event artist.
If you're a painter, calligrapher, or illustrator, this podcast is for you because we're about to uncover the secrets, the stories, and the struggles of this industry.
And we're your hosts. I'm Telisa.
And I'm Isabel.
Okay, hi everyone. Welcome back. This is season 3, episode 2, and we have a return guest today. I'm sure you're familiar with Erin from
Hello. Yeah, hello. Hi, everyone. I'm not going to do an intro. You know me or don't? No, I'm kidding. No, I'll get.
Do you even know?
Do you even? I'm not kidding. No, Erin, Neilson Letters. I'm in Montreal, in Canada. There we go. That's it. That's all you need to know, really.
Oh my God, we are an all Canadian panel today.
Oh my God, we are.
Yes. I also have my mug.
Yes, we
Very
do.
exciting.
So I remember on our first season we talked about pricing with you.
Yes,
So
ma'am.
this is actually sort of related. Our next today's episode, because we're gonna talk about subcontracting, and I do want to give a caution that the tea that is going to be served today is going to be really hot. So just caution, it might burn.
It's so funny. I said this off camera, but I'll say it here too. I do think that it is very interesting that this does seem to be like some kind of controversial, and it's fascinating to me that this is controversial, this take.
Yeah.
So,
but it's a very important subject to talk about.
Yes.
So I'm gonna let you, Erin, spill the hot tea. What's the
yes,
tea?
ma'am. Should I hold the mug while I spill it?
Yes,
I
you
won't
can.
actually spill, but I will. I will do here. I'll do this. I want to. Yeah, my keyboard would not be happy with me. Basically, that subcontracting rates need to go. They don't need to be here anymore. I don't. Hi.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye, subcontract. Right.
So I'll elaborate a little bit if you guys permit me to do so.
Yes, please.
So basically, I've been hearing about subcontractor rates a little bit as being an industry norm, and I wanted to give a different perspective. Okay, I wanted to give an alternative solution because I can understand where it's coming from, but I would like to give another option. Okay, so first, if you've never heard of the term subcontractor rate, no problem. I got you. I will give you what people are using it for. Basically, it's like if a lead artist books an event and then hires another artist, but pays them a lower rate instead of charging the client, in my opinion, appropriately for the extra administrative work, efforts, and stuff that the primary or lead artist is doing. Because they're doing more coordination between the client and then the person that they're working, that they've pulled up. Or the secondary person rather. And then there's a little bit more, maybe more troubleshooting, a little more testing, just to make sure the event goes smoothly. My opinion is why this is problematic is the second artist, especially during the event day, is contributing equally to the primary person. They're still being prepared. They're still coming professionally. They're bringing their tools. They're like practicing. They're still communicating with the primary artist. And like they're being paid less. The math doesn't math for me on that. And also the second, like usually when you hire a second artist, it's because you need them there because the event is too big for one person. So like they're valuable to be, paid the same. So at the end of that, the key takeaway for me is instead of taking a cut from your colleague, because they're a colleague, not your assistant. Exactly. Is that
we'll get into
lead
that.
artist? Yeah, we'll elaborate. It's fine. But like the lead artist should just charge an admin fee to the and I find this interesting that is the take that seems to be controversial. Yeah, that's the vibe. That's the tea. Is it scalding hot? Perhaps, but we shall see.
We'll get to that. Why it's so hot.
One thing I kind of wanted to mention, we talked about equal pay. As far as like providing another perspective, I wanted to just mention there is a possibility where you might not be getting equal pay, but you the second artist is being paid what they want to pay. It's their
Yes.
rate. Because not necessarily that we all have the same rate. You
That's
know,
fair.
like let's say you ask somebody to join you on the job. And I think the fairest way to do that is just by asking them what their rate is and then see if you can make that happen. That's it. There's no like real obligation or whatever for you to say like, well, we got to get paid equal. It's just like to make your point, we're not taking away from somebody else's rate in order to pay ourselves.
Yes, it 100%. I guess it's just like, it's all about just being, I don't know, clear and transparent with the person who's helping you. That's it.
Or like if you feel that the other artists have been charging low without maybe not knowing the industry, what to charge, you can tell them like, this is how much I've been charging. And I think we can go higher. If
100%.
the client has the budget, you're gonna make sure you get paid the same. And
100%. The thing is, it's for me, it's uncomfortable for me to think about not paying like what they think that they're worth to them, and me like dictating what their rate should be because I think that I should get paid more than them. It feels uncomfortable for me. I don't like doing that, so I don't. That's it.
It feels kind of like morally could be unethical in a way that like, okay, well, I'm gonna pay you like 60% of what I'm making, and because why, you're like new to this, so it just I don't know. It feels
it's uncomfortable.
It's uncomfortable. I feel like I would not want to be treated that way. Like if I'm a second artist, I don't want to be told, oh, because you know you're not the lead artist, you're gonna be paid such and such, and which is like, you know, much lower than I would pay myself. So I wouldn't. It's like, I know if I wouldn't do that to you, why would you do that to me? Kind of way, you know.
I would say that's kind of like you're showing someone without saying the words, you're showing them that you have decided you are more important in this equation. You know, it's like without saying the words like, hey, I'm better than you. It's you're showing them by saying this is the percentage you're gonna get and this is the percentage I'm gonna get. You're telling them with numbers that like, hey, I'm in this situation, there is a power imbalance. I'm up here and you are here. You're like telling your colleague, you're telling your peer, somebody who's truly like in the industry and equal to you, that they're down here and you're here. And it's just like, it's uncomfortable.
It's not how I would like to be treated, basically, right? So I don't do that. If I can add a little tangential to this as well, last week I did like a little. I was hot and bothered about it, so I went to Instagram and I was curious. I'm like, am I the crazy one, basically? And I did a little informal poll. The amount of like basically about the subject. So the amount of people that I were very candid with me, very kindly so, and I will not drop any names. My DMs for me are sacrosanct, and I would never exactly, I'm never going to drop a name, and any story I tell will be as much only the important information. I don't want anyone to be able to like sleuth their way to who was talking to me. I know there's some internet sleuths out there. I get it. I understand. But basically, like the overall point that I was receiving on this was anyone who has been treated that way has felt bad about themselves during the event. They feel like they are not important. They feel like there was
resentment.
There was, pardon?
Resentment.
Resentment. They felt like sometimes they're not even allowed to say what their Instagram handle is to clients when they are actively asked who they are. And that is so like, come on, like I think for me, okay. And I guess I'll caveat at this as well. It's like, I'm not the Clicker police. You can do what you want with your business, but this is just how I view it. And the way that I run my business here is like, I mean, I'm doing a couple of duo events with other calligraphers in the city here. And like one of them is like, I'm the one who is the primary, and the other one is the other person who is the primary. It doesn't matter. I don't care. And then whoever works with me, if you want to leave your business card out, girl, bless you. Have fun. Enjoy. Like I would like the way I think of it is like, this is more advertisement for calligraphy.
Mm-hmm.
The more people who know, incredible. I'm not their agent. I don't want to control what, like, I don't want to be a barrier for them to get business. That seems unfair. You want to leave your business cards on the table? Incredible. More power to you. Have fun. If the client might like you more than they like me, like it's a guest or something, amazing. That means that guest doesn't like accidentally go into my workflow and like ends up wasting their time talking to me when they actually wanted to talk to my colleague. I go to her directly. That's cool.
Yeah, actually, that's a good point, because like this is an age of, like you just said earlier, there are some internet sleuths out there. Yeah. We have access to so much. You think like preventing somebody's business cards from existing on the table is going to prevent somebody from finding them? Like that's not like, what are you protecting, right? Like if let's say right now I'm going to say the words like, oh, I'm here on behalf of blah, blah, blah. And you're not allowed to say who you are, what your name is, your Instagram handle. Somebody else is going to ask somebody else. And then or maybe the client is going to say, hey, that artist that you hired, there was like 2 other people there. Somebody is going to find out. So it's like, this is not the hill to not die on, but you know what I mean? Like why this insisting on this is like a weird thing for me.
Especially because like if you look up calligraphy in whatever city you're in, at some point they're gonna pop up. Our faces are all over our websites. You'll be able to recognize us.
There's very few people, even in the big cities. The number of calligraphers is very low.
It's not hard to find us.
It's not hard to find us. So yeah, just I think, and going back to your point about like that's not how you want to be treated. Like I don't want to show up to a job feeling like I'm not as important.
Yeah.
Or I'm not delivering half the job.
Mm-mm.
It's going to
leak into the event experience for the guest, I think.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. It's awkward.
It's not good for anyone.
Or
can you imagine trying to tell someone, sorry, I can't tell you what my name is? What do you mean?
Sorry, I can't share my Instagram. I sign a contract.
I'm an adult, but I'm not allowed to tell you my name. Like that's what a wild sentence.
But listen, like sometimes the client itself don't want you to have a display of your business. That is fine. I think that's okay.
Yeah, that's different. That's a different issue.
That's totally different. Yeah.
But if the lead artist, the person who is the main contact, is the one actively, posing that policy to the additional artist, that's not cool.
Mm-mm.
It kind of stems insecurity to me when I see that. It's like, why are you hiding them? This is the age of internet, like you guys said. Like anyone can find out anybody. Don't make them invisible,
Mm-hmm. I think they deserve respect. Maybe, I don't know, maybe this is my Canadian in me, who knows, I'm just like, everyone needs to have like proper work, representation or whatever. Like, I don't know, it's the socialism in me, who knows. But the way I have an incredible amount of respect for the calligraphers in my town. Like in Montreal, first of all, we're not that many. Mm-hmm. And like, we all need each other to support each other. So like, I don't understand the issue with that. So like, I respect them. I want them to be paid a living wage. And we're all independent business people. Like, and I feel like sharing the spotlight doesn't make you dim in any way, shape, or form.
This is like a rising tide, right? If you're winning, everybody wins,
Mm-hmm.
Everybody's like open and transparent about your success. I don't see why we need to be all
So
you know,
secretive.
so secretive about it. You know, you're not the only calligraphers in the city. There's a lot of them. There's a lot of different artists, and I think everybody deserves a spotlight, like you said. And it's just so sad that like some people think that it has to be it's like a shocking. And then, you know, like I understand when someone is maybe like even like they're new to this industry, they wanted to start. Like I still feel like they should deserve the same rate. Like you know, not
if
like
you think they're good enough to work with you, they're good enough to get your paid, like get your rate. Minimum. I mean, again, well, like Isabel said before, though, like ask them, what do you want to get paid? what is your rate, kind of thing.
Yeah.
But I guess it's just like if you think that they're good enough to work with you, then they're good enough to be paid like a normal amount that you think would be warranted, I guess.
Yeah.
Don't cut them. Don't reduce their pay. That's please. I'm not the police. I'm not the Cligger police, but like, don't do this, please.
Yeah.
It's not good for anyone.
And it just feels that, I don't know, I just still find it really ick to see them as an assistant. I've spoken to some individuals, and they you know, they practice this, and they see them as assistants, and I disagree with that. They're not your assistant. The terminology of assistant is not correct in their definition. To me, I think assistant is someone who's, you know, doing the admin, doing the communication on site. They're not doing the exact same job as you do. The second artist is your colleague. They're not your employee either.
Listen, if I'm someone's employee, someone needs to pay me my health insurance.
Exactly.
Excuse me.
Pay for my tools. How about that?
Also a predictable salary that is every month I can expect my expenses to be covered and my rent. I think that's okay. Maybe this is the way like I want to frame it, is like we need to look at it like every single one of us is an independent freelancer. To that point of like no one is anybody's staff or assistant. It's exactly this. Like you have a freelance business because of all the things it comes with. Like we want that independence, we want that like flexibility, we want to be able to make these decisions. Like what's the number one reason people want to be a freelancer? They're like, we want to be our own boss. Like this is like the biggest thing. And so why are we like getting into an industry and then, you know, making maybe newcomers or something, less experienced artists, whatever, feel like, oh, I have to like pay my dues and like
there are
work
employees.
under, like I have to work under somebody for a shitty rate for a number of years before I'm allowed to like earn a full rate on my own and go out on my own. Like that's not like the start of, like that's not the spirit of what we're trying to do here as a freelance community. Like we all want to have that same independence and I don't know. Does that make sense?
100%. Yeah, I mean that was something I had mentioned too, that like I have heard that it's like people will compare it to other industries, like wedding photographers, whatever, and you have a second photographer, you have an assistant, and like that's the reason they're getting paid less. It's not a one-to-one though. And I am also aware that sometimes in those types of scenarios the environment is not the most positive. So I don't know why we would want to copy that type of behavior if overall it's not fun for people to be working in that type of environment. So like why, like we are independent. I don't like, we can make things better. We can choose differently. We don't have to follow things that make us feel weird or icky or treat people how we wouldn't want to be treated. We can choose differently.
Sometimes I feel like as freelancing goes, because we're like, you know, trying to figure things out in the dark half the time, and as soon as we like get one answer from one person, we're like, oh, that must be the way the whole industry works. That's the way people do it. This person is experienced and this is the way they do it, so that must be the way everybody does it. I must do the same thing. And it's like one person even if they are experienced, even if they have been at it for years and years and years, it doesn't make them like the one person we all need to like follow, or the one practice, or other industries that might like look and smell the same, but like not really what we are doing. It's never going to be a perfect analogy. There might be some similarities, but it's not, in the end, it's not the same. What we're doing is so different, and we have, I don't know, we should give ourselves the choice to set some of these boundaries and rules for what
we have autonomy over what we choose to do.
We do. And I'm sorry, but our industry is not behind. We're not behind. We're just different.
Yeah, 100%. Like, and I think that and actually I will, which is why I always say whenever I am speaking publicly, I am not the police. Like, I cannot tell you how you should run your business. I just think it's important to have as much information as you can so you can make the best decision for your business that makes sense for you. And that includes this. Like, if you think that this doesn't apply to you, okay. That, I mean, I'm not going to run after you and tell you like you should, wag my finger at you and tell you like, no, you're being such a bad person. It's just, I think that, like Isabel said, sometimes people don't realize they don't necessarily have a community they can talk to. So they hear one person who might have a larger impact somewhere, and they hear that and they go, oh, this must be the way it's done. But, there is a way to, there's other ways you can do things too. You can decide. The information that I'm giving, like, for myself right now, like on the soapbox that you guys have so kindly given me, is regardless of what you choose to do, it's just do it with intention. I think, like, take whatever information you're going to get here that works for you. And that's like, but like taking information only from one source and being like, this must be how it works industry wide isn't always the case. I think that was what I was trying to say in a very roundabout way.
Yes,
but
actually,
I don't know.
that's very good memory, because that's totally what we were talking about. And I wanted to mention that, like, that's all this is. Like, the podcast, these discussions, all of our comments, the stuff we exchange to one another, this is just what I believe, like, we just need this discussion. We do not have to like divide ourselves in camps. We do not have to be like, oh, it's them versus them. Like, that's not how this is supposed to run. It's just, as the more we can like openly talk about things that are like maybe slightly uncomfy, maybe slightly controversial or whatever, then like the more we can learn about each other and how we prefer to do things. And then you, again, as an independent freelancer, you can choose to work with the people that you jive with. And that's how it's supposed to go. Like, we're not all supposed to agree on everything. And
no, it's great. And like, take what you want from whatever makes sense for you, and just like make your own little puzzle of like, that's how my business works. I take from here. I mean, that's how you know how many calligraphy classes I've taken? Gajillions. Okay. Do I know all the hands I've taken classes of? Absolutely not. But I learned a little something from each of them that I like to put into my work,
Yeah, and then like later on at some point, you're gonna be like, oh, that thing that I learned from this person that many years ago, like suddenly this makes sense in this context, and like that will like light like these moments for you of like clarity, and you're just gonna be like, oh, like that's how I should deal with this situation. And that's all this is. Like, we just want to provide like this kind of place to talk about these issues, just so. The three of us happen to agree on this issue doesn't mean the three of us always agree on every single thing either. So
we have discussions about stuff all the time.
all the time.
Yeah, the group chat is like pretty fire. We say what we said, and we also hear from what other people are DMing us about things like, that agree with us or disagree with us, but we just want to.
I actually kind of love when someone disagrees, because I'm just like, wait, how? Why?
Yeah.
Like, I want to know, like, oh, okay, like, is this something I haven't heard before? Is this like a perspective I haven't thought of before? And like, I think that that's important, right? I don't know.
No, yeah, for sure.
It's just like, don't you find sometimes like we are as a whole communities, sometimes I find that it's just like we're lacking a little bit of like what's the word, like critical thinking about certain things, like taking one person's word about one thing as the like, oh, that must be how it's done, and then we just like give assumptions to like big situations, and then we just apply it as if like that's just the truth. I just think it's like really important that we see a practice, and then we think for ourselves like, hey, does that actually make sense with me? Does that actually sit well with me? Do I think maybe I would prefer to do it differently? Where can I do that? Like just have that reflection a little bit, because what works for somebody else or another industry, just like maybe it works for you,
Doesn't
maybe
always
it doesn't.
apply. Yeah. And like I think that even though we're all within the same space, you know, we're all in Canada, but we're all in different provinces, we're all in different cities, all that kind of stuff. We're also all in like the live event stuff, sure, but like our business models are a little different from each other's, and that's fine, you know. And like sometimes people who do live events, they don't do brand stuff, they only do weddings, or so maybe not all of this is exactly applicable to them, but you could just take, you know, you just take you take what's important and you discard the rest.
I think the most important thing is just to create the positive environment where everybody feels like, you know, equal, not belittling someone else.
Yeah.
You know, using financial, monetary thing. So
yes.
So I think that's the most important. That's the only, like, you know, that's the message that we want to spread, that, you know, in order for you to have that community over competition mindset, you also want to be like, you know, clear about it, but not like sneaky in a way. It's like, you know, because sometimes it could be a disguise as like, oh, I'm helping people, you know, getting into this industry. But then if you're paying them lower, then is that really community over competition, or just like, oh, is that a monopoly? Like, you know, right?
Yeah, exactly. Like it's an interesting, it's just like an interesting mental exercise to be like, does this feel right? Does this feel fair? Does that matter to me? I don't know.
Would I do that to someone else? Would I?
Exactly. Like, there was something that we had discussed, and I like the part where if there's an event where if you need to bring someone else on, that means the volume is large enough that you need to have more than just you, which like means if that other person isn't there, the event's probably not happening. So there's a lot of value and there's a lot of power in that for the secondary person, right? Like, I would love to just like empower people to be like, you know, you can choose what you do, right? Like that's the thing. Because like if you say no, you want to be paid a fair rate. This is my rate. Don't cut me by, I don't know, whatever percentage of what it is. When if I'm not helping you with this event and we're not working together at this live event at the same time, the event is not happening. Like there's a lot of power in that.
Yeah. For sure.
Something to think about.
Yeah, and I want to take a moment to like recognize that's like, of course, that's not easy to do.
No, yeah,
you know, true. It's like, of course, when somebody invites you onto a job and is like, oh, this the client's willing to pay X dollars per hour, and let's say that's transparent. Let's just assume that's what it is and that's what the other artist is earning or whatever it is. And let's say you feel like it's not enough or it doesn't feel good to you. There's an imbalance or something, whatever. And you feel like, oh my God, like if I don't take this, then this artist's never going to hire me again. Like they're never going to subcontract me again. They're not going to want to work with me if I don't take the rate that they're offering. And there could be like some like murkiness over that, thinking like, oh, in order to keep a relationship and like I want to make it not awkward or whatever. Like it's just we realize that, like we understand, like it's not not in a
there are personal dynamics at play as well.
Yeah. So I don't want people to think that like we're completely oblivious to like, oh, we can just have the power to just like, no, that's not, I don't like that. And then that won't affect things going forward. Of course, like these are difficult things that we navigate. And these things do happen, of course. If you say no this one time, it could result in like in the future, they just never come to you again. And I guess what I'm trying to say in a very roundabout way is that like in the end, does it sit well with you? Is it okay with you that you don't hear from this artist again? Like maybe it's worth like doing that self-reflection to say like, you know what, maybe I don't need that. Right? Like that's the way I want my business run. I think I'm okay with that decision. Like I want to find people who value me at my full rate. And maybe that's okay. And maybe it feels like really sucky in the short term, but maybe the next time you get a lead, you get a something, you need to refer a job, you need a second artist, like you find people who you value, and then you have a healthy relationship going forward. We just need to like think bigger than the current job and the current thing at hand, and just you know.
And I would also, to piggyback off of that too, if you I generally speaking tend to be fairly inflexible with my pricing. However, I also am willing to play ball sometimes, depending on the situation, the event, the person, and maybe it is something that I would really want to do, and it makes sense for me to like, okay, like we can work, but the important part is the communication between you and the other person.
Yeah.
Maybe make it clear, hey, normally my pricing is like this, but for this event, because like I really want to work with you for X, Y, and Z reason, I'll lower it for this one. I'm going to send you my invoice. Like we can work with that type of thing. And like my suggestion for if you do that is always, if you discount like that, which, you know, generally speaking, I try not to, but again, sometimes I am willing to play ball, is like put your full price on your invoice and then show them the value that you're giving them by, you know what I mean? By giving that, like by playing ball, like I am taking a hit on my normal pricing for you to do this thing. Like always show your full price somewhere. And then the thing that would be, if you want to play ball and you want to do that, like there's no hard and fast rule on that, but it's a reflection, like you said, Isabel. But then there's also the communicate clearly to the person that you're working with, and just be transparent with them about how you're feeling. And if they don't like that, that might be something to think about.
Well, yeah, exactly. Yeah. Like these things like do reveal parts of people that like could be like, wow, like I really like how this person runs their business and like how they run this relationship with me. That's awesome. Or it could be the flip side. You're like, oh, maybe this is not something I like and I don't want to deal with this ever again. And that's like these are good. Like in the long run, it's good.
All information.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I 100% agree with all of what you said, and I remember Isabel, you kind of mentioned something about referring, and which kind of want to segue into the second scenario of subcontracting, which is when an artist they proactively like booking more jobs that they can actually have the capacity to, and then they become the artist and agency. So it's not really substitute anymore. It's more like I'm already booked, but this client wants an artist for the same date. So I'm going to find someone else to fill up the spot, and I'm going to pay them less because I own the contact. I own the client. That's the second scenario of what we've probably seen in terms of subcontracting. Let's talk about it.
Yeah, like I want to say that at face value, if we just look at it like, oh well, somebody's giving me a job, like somebody's hiring me, like what's the big problem? I have problems.
I have problems too.
I have a problem.
There's a problem here.
There's a problem. And it's like, you know, I hear this I know that there are many people that feel like, oh, you know what, like maybe I'm just not as good at getting jobs. Maybe I'm just not as good at getting leads myself. Like maybe it's okay. Like I don't mind just getting hired by another artist. And if that's like a regular occurrence, that's okay. Maybe I don't mind, right? And my humble opinion is that like we should mind. we should mind, because I see it as like, first of all, it has like this scenario has all the same issues and concerns as the multiple artists per event scenario, which is like, you know, somebody's taking a cut from your rate, somebody's taking a commission, for example. Maybe there's some long 10-page contract that you're signing with the first artist or lead artist or whoever we want to call it, between people who are really equals in a relationship, whereby a contract we're stating like, I'm up here, you're down here, you answer to me, kind of thing. Yeah. We're talking about preventing other artists in your community from being known by potential clients. We're talking about like all these factors, they are exactly the same, but even more on top of that, there is a huge conflict of interest, because if I am an artist who is capable and doing jobs, and I'm going on site, I'm doing this job, and then at the same time also hiring hands to do the same job, like you're occupying both sides of that that coin, and like that presents a conflict of interest. So like what prevents you from, you know, saying like, hey, like I'm gonna take, you know, this job on March 1st, and then a week later I book a job for March 10th, and at a later date for March 1st. And now I have two potential things going on March 1st. Which one do I like better? I think I'm going to pick the second one because that gig is better. Maybe I'll just subcontract the first one. And that becomes like you've prioritized yourself over someone else in this market. And you've decided like, I'm going to take priority over someone else. Like that's just one singular example of the conflict of interest that I'm talking about. But yeah, like, I don't know. I just think like, and this is going to be like a hint at another topic at another time, but I think like being an agency and being an artist, like these can be like very divided, well-positioned businesses independently. Yeah. I just don't think it
should be together.
It should be together. Yeah. Because it's two sides.
Yeah, I think from what you were saying, especially the way that I've seen it done in that way, it's also kind of like, this is a big word, and because I can't think of another one but it feels dishonest to the brand, to the client, because they're expecting to work with you, and then you don't show up. Someone else shows up, and you're like, who is this person? But they can't tell you what their name is because they're not allowed to put their own business on the table. Sorry. I find that very, very funny. Like that's like a very weird scenario to me. That's the thing, but yeah. But like, I think one of you have seen like in like contracts and stuff from brands that they're starting to like not allowing substitutions, right?
No substitute clause. Yeah, I've gotten that before.
It's a full on like big section with multiple points. I've seen it twice this year already, and this is March. It's only been 2 months in this year, and I've seen it in 2 contracts that's been served to me, saying like no substitutions for this completion of the service without prior written consent and disclosure. Like you can't. Of course, it's a different story, by the way, if you happen to be sick and you're like, I need somebody to show up on my behalf. Like,
of course. That's happened to me before, and someone flew in and covered me, and I was like, bless you.
Oh my God, they flew in?
No. Sorry. I mean, sorry. Like, hyperbolically, they flew in and saved me. They grew
Yeah, no.
wings and they flew into the city.
Well, I mean, like via plane, okay, Erin.
No.
Anyway, yeah.
I was being hyperbolic, but yes, no,
Yeah.
they came in and saved the event because I got COVID. I was very sick, and I was like,
For sure. Yeah. And this
Thank
is
you.
it's like we're not talking about something that's like maybe some people haven't even like encountered this before and maybe not aware of this issue or aware of maybe this particular scenario just based on experience. But this definitely happens. And in multiple different markets that we've spoken with.
Yeah, globally.
Globally, like in different
Mhm.
geographies, like some more advanced of a problem
Mhm.
than
Yeah.
some others.
Yeah. And I can say one thing that is very common that a lot of people agree is that they do not like it.
Yeah.
They're not happy that they have to be a subcontract of someone's team being paid much less than the person who's in contact with the brand, the end client. It's almost as if like okay, nobody owns a client. Let's just agree with that. Nobody owns. I do not own
At any
brand
point in
1,
time,
2. We
they
do
can
not.
they can stop working with us at any time.
Yeah.
Mhm.
My
a
client,
risk.
it's not my client.
Not
It's just
mine.
a client. It is,
Yep.
like you have the short-term project that you're completing. It
Mhm.
doesn't mean that they are bound to work with you forever.
It would be
Mhm.
great if they did, though. It would be so
Yeah,
nice if
it
they
would be
did,
nice.
but they're not required to.
But they're not
Exactly.
required. They will find
No.
someone else, regardless if you think, oh, they're
Yeah.
stealing my client. BS, bullshit. Nobody is stealing anybody's client, okay? If they like someone else's work, maybe that's something that you want to work on in terms of your skill or your
It's a free
professional.
market. Like we
Yeah,
live in a free market society. Like brands, and sometimes,
Yeah.
honestly, sometimes it's like they just want to change. They're like, we've worked
Yeah.
with this person, but let's see what it feels like with someone. It's like they're trying
And
out a
it's
new pair of
okay.
socks.
Yeah,
That's
and it's
cool.
totally fine.
But if any of my regular clients hear this, I didn't say that. I am the most comfortable pair of socks. Do not change them.
Right?
The grass is not greener on the
No,
other side.
So like there is, again, I feel like what we said before with the scenario 1 with the multiple artists, and then scenario 2 hiding the client or hiding the your brand or whatnot. It comes from insecurity that your job is going to be taken away. Oh, what if I refer this job, they're not going to come back to me again? Or like, oh, if like, if I'm sharing the client, like referring, and then what if they like that person's work better? But like that's, even if it does, and if they do go with the artist that you prefer moving forward, like you can't control that. They can still do it without asking you. They can still look on Instagram, search up city calligrapher, whatever city it is, and calligrapher, and then find someone else. They could do that. You don't even have to refer. They could do that. We're in the social media. They just make it easy for these clients to find artists and talent. So like, what exactly is the point of trying to hide a client contact when you could just easily refer?
My thing with that is always, I would like to be as helpful as possible. I would like to be seen as not a barrier. I want to be as easy to work with as possible. If you want another referral to someone else, incredible, I can hook you up with them. I don't even need to be involved in the process. Like
I don't
cool.
want to be.
It's
like
fine.
literally,
No,
if
I don't
I'm
want
referring, it's off my plate.
Fun.
I don't want to like deal
Best
with
of luck.
this. Like, here's a contact. You can contact them directly.
I'm good.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Please, like I do enough admin on my own. I don't need to do yours too, please.
Exactly.
Please.
I like that you use the word barrier because I went to a snotty business school and I learn a lot of these terminologies, which I find actually like really applicable to our industry all the time. And I think about them a lot that like I didn't care about it in school, but now in the real world, I'm like, oh my God, we did learn about this. And this actually makes sense. Mm-hmm. It used to be bullshit to me, but now I'm like, oh my God, that's what this is. Like, so a barrier, going back to Erin, installing barriers to prevent competition from entering a market, that is one way of preventing free competition. And you can look this term up. It's called an anti-competitive practice. And there are real life examples where this is actually illegal. I'm not saying that is in the freelancer.
It's like, we are not a lawyer. This is not legal advice.
We're not going to sue anybody. Don't worry.
Do not take this as legal advice. No one here is a lawyer.
Put the disclaimer right here under my mouth. So yeah, there's an actual term for this kind of behavior or installing barriers to entry. It's called an anti-competitive practice. There are ways where, you know, you can try to gain like a bigger market share by doing things like what Telisa said, like hiding clients. Instead of referring, you just say like, oh, you know what, I'll find somebody for you and then I'll contract the job for you. Even though you don't plan on fulfilling that job, you're contracting it. And so that way you feel like, oh, okay, you know what, the client's still working with me. And, you know, this other person that I hire, it's just for this one time. And then in the future, maybe they'll just come right back to me and then I'll continue working with them. It's a choice. It's just a decision. We are not here to say you have to do it this way, you have to do it that way. One way is right or wrong. But I just look at it as, you know, this is a way to prevent somebody from freely competing with you. And as much as like we don't want to use the word competitor, artists in your community, they are competitors, and that's okay. By the way, it's totally okay. We can compete with one another. Sometimes we win, sometimes we lose, and we can still cheer each other on. This can both exist.
We can still respect the other person who is around and not
100.
It's fine.
Yes, 100%. Like, you know, I've made this analogy before in the group chat where it's like, you think of like two Olympian athletes representing Canada, whatever, in the same sport, same event. Do they train together? Yes, they do. They hang out like 24/7 training together to compete together at a world stage, whatever. And that day when one person wins the gold and the other wins the silver, do they hug and cheer each other on? Yes, they do. Like, we can foster this same spirit where like we have equal opportunity to compete. And when one wins or loses, it's that one time. We can have the choice to say like, oh, you know what, my client wants to hire me for this day, but I can't be there, so I'm just gonna say like, hey, you know, Erin's really great at doing this too, maybe give her a shout. You can just make that choice and let it go.
Let it go.
Let it go.
If you love it, let it go, and it'll come back to you. Meant to be.
You have to, you have to trust that they'll come back to you. And if they move on with Erin or whatever for any reason, by the way, it could be for a host of reasons.
And you never know.
You'll never know. Like, you can speculate all day. Who cares? It's like you just have to move on. You just have to carry on. Like, some things it's just gonna happen sometimes when clients move on. And like you said, it could just simply be like, we love you. We just want to try something different. We just want to have a different face at the store. Who knows? And that's okay.
It is hard to work that muscle, though. I will admit that is a hard muscle to be like, this is okay, this is fine.
It's so hard.
Yeah, but at the end of the day, like, I would rather be in a community where I don't feel upset when someone else gets a contract. I would much rather be like, that's incredible for you. I'm so happy for you. So like, it might take a bit more work to get there. I'm not a saint by any stretch of the imagination. Sometimes the little green monster of envy wins sometimes. And I'm just like, dang, why wasn't it me or whatever? And that happens. But at the end of the day, listen, maybe that other person was a better fit, and that I have to be okay with that, because like I can't live in the what if. That it removes the energy. Like I'd much rather take that energy and focus it on like, how can I improve? How can I be better? What other skills can I learn? Like what, like if I'm trying to like break into an industry, okay, like what can I do differently? What can I do to stand out? I would much rather put that energy on me versus be going like, why did this person get this job and I didn't? Blah 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 blah. Like
it's unpredictable.
That's a
sometimes it will
spiral.
happen.
That's a spiral we have
100%.
all gone down.
Yeah.
Like we are all the same in like if you've been at it for long enough, these things have happened to you. Like, okay, like show of hands, like have you ever been replaced when you've been referred a job and then when you've referred somebody for a job and then you've like in effect been replaced by another person? Yes.
Happened. Oh, yeah.
Yes, we have.
The limbs up. Yeah, it's all happened to everyone. Yeah.
And then on the flip coin, has the opposite scenario happened to you also? Have you also been the chosen one going forward?
It just happens.
Yeah.
It just happens. And like we have to like get rid of the mindset of like, oh my God, if I lose this one, then does that mean like I'm a failure or I'm gonna lose more clients or like this means something for me? Like we have to like get rid of that, like it's you against me. $1 more you make is $1 less for me. Like we can't like constantly play that like fear and thinking that there's only so much to go around and we gotta like fight for scraps, and like it's not like that.
No. And like I actually I'll jump in as well, and I want to share a little story that I got in my DMs when I was chatting about this from a market that I will not name because it's a little bit too specific. But if this sounds like your market, it might be. Who knows? Who knows?
Like I said, the tea might be hot.
And I'm gonna try and make sure that this doesn't like give any identifying information. I don't think it does, but I'll read out most of what this person said to me. So apparently this type of I guess what Isabel was saying, which could be possibly seen as an anti-competitive practice, is very common in this particular region exactly of the world, where people will subcontract others at a lower rate, mainly because a few national agencies and big, if we're listening on an audio only thing, I'm doing big air quotations, bunny ears around agencies. Okay. And if you've listened to my other guest thing here about pricing and stuff, I think I might go off on agencies a little bit. I don't remember, or if this is like, was this with you guys? I may have just been losing my mind on a different one. I don't remember. Anyways, bunny ears are on agencies that manage the bulk of bookings for all the big brands. So now it's expected, if subcontracted, that we take a much lower cut than if direct. So now if someone does get a direct booking and needs an additional artist, we all use the same principle. And that is so sad.
That's so sad.
It makes me so sad. I'm like, But conversely, they were like, I really like your idea of doing the same rate for both people or multiple people or whatever, but with an administrative fee. So apparently, I don't know if they will follow through with this. Hopefully they do. But they said that they were going to talk to the other people in their region and see if that could be a plan that they could develop together of something that makes it feel like more at parity with each other. And like that made me, I was so sad. And then I got really happy at the end of the message.
There's hope.
And I'm like, because conversation and transparency and communication with your community is so important. And like, I really like, I want to champion that attitude of just like, this makes me feel sad. And this is like, I guess this is the way that things work. We have to do the same thing. A new idea has come in. Let's see if we can try, like, maybe this can work too. And I'm like, yes, this is so good.
And like for something like this market that's kind of known for this issue, I want to also point out that came from somewhere. It's not like that was always the way. There's nothing is just the way. You know, it's like it's small changes over time that was reinforced by a continuation of the status quo. It's like, let's say, like for years and years, these artist agencies got bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger, and nobody really like tried to do anything different. And then that became more and more of a presence. And I'm not saying that that's like anybody's fault per se. It's just like that's how things come to be about. And that's, again, a reason why we're having this discussion, because that's not the case for all markets. That's not the case for all cities. And if we don't, if we don't talk about this, then maybe we're all sitting at home and assuming like, oh, well, like if other people don't have a problem with it, like maybe I shouldn't have a problem with it. And then everybody kind of goes along with it. And then 5 years later, is 5-10 years is this the status quo that we have reinforced because we didn't talk about it, even though we are not happy about it? It's okay. It just like raise the concerns and talk with each other, talk with other artists who maybe you feel like could be on the same page as you, and just encourage that discussion.
Dialogue.
I feel like
dialogue.
It's so needed. We just like hide so much information behind paywalls and so many like different platforms, and we just need to talk more about it. Like, okay, something really healthy that came about discussions a couple years ago, like when we all like had this big talk about pricing, right? Like, what if we didn't do that? Yeah. Are we all still thinking like, oh, like, you know, $80 an hour is like okay, you know, like we are kind of like, just the more we talk about these things, the more we understand like there's multiple perspectives out there.
There's multiple ways to price things out. There's multiple ways to like how to think about things, and like the information is out there too. You can even from other industries, like you can get information anywhere, and a lot of it is for free if you know how to Google stuff.
And like
or GPT stuff.
Now, yes. 2 years ago, it did not exist.
Not so much.
Yeah.
No,
but
now
it's like out there, and we're here. This is why we have the podcast. Yeah. We talk about uncomfortable things that it was uncomfortable before. No, we're going to talk about it. And speaking of which, I've also actually received some response from different region. And unfortunately, within that region, it seems to be a norm, because this is what happened. On one of the social media platform, I posted a screenshot of my email template of referring jobs when a client reached out to me, inquired, and I'm not available. And I give like a list of like, you know, artists with their emails or like website. Obviously I blocked those part. So this
get
is
like a bunch of like weird spam in their emails. Like I've accidentally doxed my friends.
Sorry. So in that screenshot, this was the time when the very demure trend was going on. So my caption was like, do you see how I for jobs if I'm not available? Very demure, very mindful, you know, and someone was not happy about it. The person that was responding was basically, well, if I've been working for this, it's just different practices, but if I've been in contact with this client for so long, then I'm not going to share information. And I'm like thinking, who are you to tell yourself that this client is yours forever? Right. And then second thing is that, so like if I'm not available, that I'm just going to broker a deal out of it. And I'm like, I don't like the sound of that. And this person also said like, well, it's different with your region and my region. You know, Canada maybe doesn't do that, but it's like, you know, like, and it's just very uncomfortable for me to know that this person is also actually starting an agency from an artist, and it's again very conflict of interest. And I obviously we disagree what we thought, right? With what, and I don't know. I just, but I know that a lot of people who happen to be paid subcontract rate, they're not happy because I've heard both sides now. Yeah, sure, they want to like they don't want to share the contact client. I don't know why they think that it's like, I don't know. It gives
It's
them
not like
some
clients are
power.
babies. They can't.
They're not. They're not like
like you look
like
something up. They have agency. They can do things on their own.
exactly.
Anyway,
So
sorry,
like it
continue.
just, yeah, like no one loves nobody likes the monopoly of this industry. And so that's why we're having this conversation.
Mhm.
Like, listen, if you think it's a good business idea, nobody likes it. Except for the person who's actually benefiting with it, because they get to pocket extra money. Like, even if they say like, yeah, I pay them fairly, says who? Fairly to who? Is it to you or to the other artist? Because a lot of, from what I've heard from the person that's being subcontracted, they're probably being paid like 50%, 40 or 60%, which is very, very low than what they could have done doing the same job as what you would do if you were taking the job, right?
It's not proportional to the contribution. Let's
No,
just say
yeah.
like the split. Like back to like the multi-artist scenario. It's like that like little like arrangement fee or whatever it is on top, like that's kind of like, it's just compensation for your time and energy to like book that job. It's just something on top. Same thing as like if an agency contracted you, like, do you think that like somebody for and I'm not talking about, by the way, when we're talking about this like agency situation, we're not talking about like full on event planning agencies
No,
that
No,
that
completely different.
that
totally
deliver
different.
like more value than just arranging
Yes.
an artist.
Like these people are doing work. They're making displays. They're
Production. It's a whole
very creative.
production for them. Yeah.
It is a
Yeah,
production.
like hiring an artist is just like 1/10 of the puzzle for them.
Yeah.
If not less.
Even a tenth. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
It's a tiny piece.
That's a different thing. We're talking about like talent agencies or artist agencies where it's just like all we are doing is finding a name or sourcing a name. And that's like, it's just, to me, that value is not like, it's nowhere near like 40% or whatever you want to call it. It's like lower somewhere
I was like,
down.
did
somewhere
Isabel freeze
down
again? What
there.
happened?
Like there is a line somewhere, and that line is not clear, but I know it's not 40-50%.
Yeah.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And you earning a rate that is half of what you would normally charge, like I'm not happy with that. Are you happy with that? Like, you
No
shouldn't
one
be
is.
happy with that.
No, and it brings it back to what I was saying before, which is resentful people working for you, working with you. That can, like, I think the way I think about it is like, what is the guest experience for the event? I want to make sure that guest experience is so good, is so positive. And if the person that you're bringing on is unhappy, like they could bring that, like, even if they're not trying to, and they're trying to be professional, they might be upset that like, I'm not getting what I think I'm worth. And like, maybe they'll be a little cranky. Maybe they'll be accidentally like, do you know what I mean? Like it might bleed into the event. And I'm like, I don't want to do that. I don't want to deal with that. I want everyone to be super happy. I want them to feel they are valued. I want them to feel like they are respected. And the best way to do that is to like pay them what they're worth, and what they're worth is what they tell you.
Yeah.
And
That's
that comes back to like an instinct. Like if I'm representing myself, of course I'm going to present the best working side of me. Like I'm representing me, I'm taking full responsibility. I'm here to do the job to the best of my abilities. If I'm being told that I'm representing someone else, am I really gonna try like to
No.
like then I'm like, well, like, I'm just here, like, I'm not selling myself anyway, so like, I'll just do like what's necessary to get through the day. Like, it's just instinct. It, like you said, it's not like they're trying to. Maybe it just comes out because they're not here to represent themselves.
Happy workers and happy people like doing the work that they like, I think is just like a better overall experience. And even like you were saying, like for you, if you're working and it's just you, you're putting your best foot forward. If I'm bringing someone in with me, I want them to also be a representative of like, I have good taste in people that I'm bringing with me. So like, I want them to also be like feeling like they're included. And like, also, if any of those people are listening, by the way, and I don't think so, but because I'm working with a couple people in the next couple months. If at any point, and you're listening to this, I'm going to tell them this directly too. If that you think that like maybe there's something that's fun, like please tell me. Like I want to hear. Like, you know what I mean? Like I want to have like a super incredible, respectful relationships with everyone in my network here. Anywhere else, and like I'm open for feedback. I'm not perfect, but like I just want to make sure that like if I'm bringing someone with me for an event, like they are also kind of like repping my taste of like who I'm bringing, and I'm like I want them to be happy. Why could I not? Why? It hurts my brain to try and jump through the mental hoops about why that is like not seen as normal.
It's surprisingly not normal in some regions, which is really, really sad.
Yes.
Where I don't know how this all happened, but I'm noticing that in some regions when they actually practice this, subcontracting, owning as an agency, it becomes like there's like become like multiple artists became agencies, and it becomes like a competition, and it becomes very, I don't know, like just uncomfortable, non-supporting environment in that region anymore. Because I don't know, I'm just noticing this, and it just, and then they all talk behind their back, it's like, oh, I work with this.
Like they all talked about the back, but not to people in that same network. They go,
one degree away.
And I'm like, oh, okay, cool. Or like maybe Telisa's or Isabel's DMs or whatever. But like, like I think like how clients talk to each other, calligraphers also talk to each other. Maybe just like one or two people, but like they do. Calligraphers chat. Okay, we're all a bunch of yappers with each other. Grade 8 yappers.
The community is so small that we just know each other and like know the jobs that are coming to us and who's taking what. It's like it's not a secret anymore, So
I just encourage like try to connect with people in your area and like I don't know, be friends with people. It's okay. You can be friendly. It's all good.
And I feel like, okay, and this is like like an experience that I had with multiple people. I can say that honestly, where I have the opportunity to refer a job, and then I like that insecurity that we feel, like being scared to do that referral. I feel it every time. Every time I have to send the email to say like you can contact blah blah blah. I'm like send. It's like it's email to hit send on, of course. But it's been multiple times that people I've referred to have come back to me to say like I am so grateful and so surprised that like a competitor in my market has not tried to take advantage of me. 2 people said those words, almost identical words. And then it's like, oh my God. And as hard as it was to send that email, to get feedback from people in my community to say like thank you so much for treating me like a decent human being. That's like, can you imagine like on the flip side of that, if I were to say like, oh, here's a job, and like I'm gonna take a third of the rate and you take the other because I'm arranging the contract for you. It's like, can I do that? Of course I can. Do I want to do that? Am I okay with doing that? At the end of the day, like, I'm not okay with that, right? Like, to get that like real life like feedback, that became like extremely clear to me that I was doing the right thing for me. That I was oh my God.
Can I ask if that's come back to you too? Of like, have they been like, hey, like now that you've like, oh, I have something, I'm not available, let me refer back to Isabel? Has that happened?
No.
Oh, okay.
But I don't think it's like because of those circumstances. It just maybe the opportunity hasn't come up. But I think it's just like, yeah, like at the end of the day, I just like I was looking for some confirmation like from the universe that was like, oh, I was doing the right thing. And doing the right thing does like give me so much validation that like, oh yeah, like these are the right steps that I wanted to take with my business, with my community, the people that I work with, how I want to treat other people, how I want to be treated. I don't want somebody to tell me anything other than here's a client, here's a referral, like go for it. That's how I want to get it. So that's how I'm gonna give it.
Yeah, it's practicing what you preach, right? It's trying to be intentional. And again, like you said, like I've had like, I'm like, I can't do this event. I guess I'm gonna I have to refer it. And it's like, it's a painful send, but I always feel better about it when I do it. And I'm like, no, that was the right decision and it's good. And like, I want my peers to be also like a thriving, how do I want to say this? Like the more people who are exposed to this as an industry, I think the better. I think this is great. I think this is so fun. Also, not to be annoying about it, but like this is a very female forward, like very female owned business. And it is incredible that like we get to be owners of our own businesses in businesses that like can like respect the fact that we do art for a living and get to perform that. And that's awesome. And like more people coming into it, and it tends to be more women doing this job, I think is awesome. And I think that that's so great. And I think that there should be more. And like, I know that we're very saturated with calligraphy all over the place because this is what the algorithm feeds us. But like the regular folks, the muggles, the normies, okay? they are still like, oh my God, this is a thing you can do. Like, it's still like magical.
A novelty for them. Yeah.
It's so novel. And like, even though like, you know, I'll work at wherever over and over again, the people who come by most of the time are like, oh, I've never seen this before.
Yeah.
This is so interesting. You never know who you're going to meet. So like the more people who can come in, the better. The more people who can explore this, the more people who see that art is a valid and viable business. Incredible, amazing, so good. And I love the fact that it's like mostly women. Okay. I love it. It's great.
Me too. It's like, it's comfort, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah,
sorry, I went off on a tangent. I'm sorry. I'm just going to go.
International Women's Day is coming up. This is
true.
Great to talk about it too, right? To bring that up. So yeah, it's like we want to empower each other, not using other artists, right? And
or like, see each other as like dollar signs. Like we shouldn't see each other who are our peers, our competitors, our community. We are not trying to profit off of each other.
Yeah, exactly. Like we're all colleagues. We're all equal. We're not, none of us are, you know, each other's boss or whatnot. Like again, have that.
I don't work a regular job because I don't want to have a boss.
Like I literally got away from that for that reason. So like, let's not do that with the freelancing industry. And again, that's like, you know, practicing the agency artistry thing. I feel like it's coming from like a scarcity mindset too, like hoping like, you know, we have that fear like, are they like gonna like contact me back? You know, you can always say in the email, here are the people that you can contact directly, but if there is another opportunity, I would still love to work with you, you know, in the future. You know, just say that.
And you let them decide.
Yeah, let them decide. If they still want to work with you in the future, they might contact you again if they they don't, it's fine. Like, if you can't be at the same, if you can't be, you can't be in the same place. Wait, hold
You
on.
can't be in the same place.
You
two
can't
places at
be
once.
at the same place. Yeah,
Exactly.
You can't play in two
So, like-
places at once. Yes.
Like, that means
If I could have figured out how to clone myself by now, I would have done it.
yes.
But I
that
can't.
means, yeah, that means you're already at the capacity that, of
That you
a
can do.
life. Yeah, exactly. So, like, why are you trying to gain more by using other people, right? I just can't sit with that. I don't think I could sleep at night. Do you know how many times, like, I actually had like a couple of my clients have like told me, like, hey, you know what you could do? You could just like start an agency, because I know that you're not available all the time. Like, you could just like have some artists under your name. And then I'm like, I can't do that. It's not right for me. I feel like in being an artist, it's like you are your own agency. I can refer. I have no problem referring. Why do I need to start an agency under my name when
So
they
much
have?
overhead.
Yeah, exactly. Like, it
So much
completely-
overhead. Oh my god.
I know. I'm like, that seems like so much admin work that I don't want to do. It's already a lot for myself. I don't want to do other people's admin. And like,
listen, I used to be a manager of a store. I used to have to deal with people's schedules and like have to deal with like, who is it? Oh, someone's sick. Someone's got a doctor's appointment. Like, well, no. I left
I
that
don't-
behind.
yeah, like, let the people like
No.
decide, like, I can understand when a brand wants to only have one person contact to like
Yes.
get different artists. Like, well, this is exactly like the first scenario.
Yeah.
And again, like, that's you give the rate, and then you just you pay whatever the artist asks, or like all equally the same, and then charge
Add a little whatever on
admin,
top
yeah.
to be like whoop,
Yeah.
for your
And
admin,
then-
because like I do think that you should be paid for your time, and
You
like
do,
I think that I want to make sure that that is like uber super clear,
Mhm.
that I don't think that time is not valuable, because it
Mhm.
absolutely is. It's just like, don't take it from the pocket of your colleague.
Yeah,
Take it from the client who's already paying you
exactly.
for the time. Go up, don't go sideways.
And you don't even have to like make it like itemized to the client. Just add all the numbers up
Just
and then
package.
say this is the total
Flat fee.
number.
Yeah.
Ta-da!
that's it.
For 2 artists, this is how much is it going to cost.
Yeah.
And then you're just transparent with whoever you're hiring that that's what you've done. And with me, like I like to be very transparent about numbers. I work with numbers all fucking day long, that I can't like not be transparent with numbers. Like, that's just who I am. So I want to be like, this is what I'm earning, this is what you're earning, and this is what the client is paying, and they're paying on this day, and this is like, that's like, that should be the given, you know. I don't
Much
want to,
easier that way.
yeah. And like the playing the middleman thing, it's like, why it's not like effective when things are getting lost in translation. There's a delay on communication, like when the client's relaying something to you and then you're relaying something to the other person, or like you got busy and you forgot to tell them. Like, there's so
much risk.
so much risk in miscommunicating information. I want to make the point like that you guys were talking about, like, that time is not valueless. Of course it's not, because the time and effort that both of you have expressed that you wouldn't want to do. I am 100% certain there's people out there who are like, oh, I don't mind doing that. I don't mind doing the admin job and earning a fee and like just be the agent. And I'm like, I'm not saying that there's not people who's not like willing to do that work. I'm saying that there is a business reason, there is a reason to charge somebody something for every single action that we do as a freelancer. We can find a reason to charge somebody something for everything, every single thing that we do, right? But we also have to evaluate, like, again, whose pocket is that coming out of? How much is the right amount? How do I frame this to whom? How do I manage the communication between people?
And how do you do it ethically? I
And
think.
how do you do it ethically? Yeah.
Mhm.
So it's like, we can always take a scenario, and an example from another industry or whatever, and we can make sense of it. We can say, well, that's the way that system works because this and this and this, and that's the way it works for them. So it must work too. Like, we could probably apply the same principle. Like, you can find a reason around how something works. but it doesn't make it like the perfect way. We can design something that also makes sense, you know, like
there's more than one way to do something.
For sure.
And
And
that's cool.
speaking of which is a good segue to the actionable advice of this
Oh, yes,
part. Okay, so what do we think? So Erin, you mentioned about, you know, charging admin fee to the client and package it. So
yep. And package it, like ask your colleague what their rate is, pay them their rate, add your rate, add an admin fee. That's
simple
it.
as that.
Simple. Don't break your brain. It's all good. And then there was something I wanted to mention as well. So we very briefly. So sometimes, and I have fallen into this as well, where I'll work with someone and I'm like, I don't know, I feel like we need to have something written down. And I'll just like send them my like client contract. I'm like, I guess this is fine. But it never felt like, it was not like perfect. It wasn't like right, but I just didn't know like what it could be until, okay. And I asked her if I could mention her name and she was like, please. So Joy Janine. Hi, Joy.
Hi, Joy.
Hi, Joy, if you're listening. Hello. If you've made it this far.
shout out to Joy.
Exactly. At Imagine Joy, okay, in Montreal. Hi. What's up, girl?
Put her business card up right here.
Yeah. Like ding, like if just like put a like right in front of me, it just like put her Instagram or something. Very funny. Anyways, I am going to be working with her soon. I've worked with her before, and like she had this thing that's just like a memorandum of agreement between me and her, and all it does is just kind of like, it's a very simple agreement, and it just outlines the expectations in a way that doesn't make either one of us feel like one is better or worse than the other. It's just like very easy language. I don't know if it's like a legal contract by any stretch of the imagination, but just it's something that's written down. What time is the event? What date is the event? Who is responsible for what? Who's getting paid? How they're getting paid? When they're getting paid? You know, and if there's business cards are allowed on the table. If you post photos, please give me a tag. Like, it's very like, it's so straightforward and it's not complicated. And I'm like, girl, I am stealing this idea. And
How many pages? How many pages
like,
is it?
Page? Is it one page? Maybe.
Short and
That's
simple.
it.
I just want to
Simple.
I want to point that out. It's simple and easy to understand. And are you asked of anything burdensome in the contract? Something that felt like you were being limited or blocked from something? No, just clean,
it's just
clean,
very clean. Just a agreement amongst the two people, because sometimes you're like, what? Even just for me, I'm like, it's one document I can look at, not trying to go through email. Like, what date was this again? What time do I have to be there again? Like, I don't remember. Crap, I forgot to write it in the calendar date. Like, it's on one page. This is what time we're supposed to be there for. This is what we're doing. Who is providing the materials for the thing? We're responsible for whatever. And it's like it's very simple language. I highly recommend. This is great. I've stolen it and I've shared it with Isabel, Lisa, and I think this might be for me. So thanks, Joy. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thanks, Joy.
Great.
Oh,
I like that. So the people that are the two parties are just between you and the other artist. The client does not get to see this agreement.
No, well, no. The person, whoever the primary person is, they have their own like little whatever, like their actual thing. It's more just like whoever the primary plus a subcontractor,
right?
They get one, because like the one that I have with a client is like, it's very long, it's very detailed, very like legalese.
With all the legalese.
Yeah, exactly. Versus like something with it's just like, it's a very simple like, listen, you want to look something up on try ChatGPT or Gemini or whatever. I don't know which one's better, but just like try again. I wouldn't say like don't do this as a legal thing. I know there are people who sell like calligraphy contracts and all that kind of thing, and I don't want to like undercut that their job is very important, but just for like at least something like this, especially with someone that I know and someone that I trust, this is very just like simple.
Yeah,
we're not making it
outlining everything. No, I think that's a really good idea. Like, it's a clear communication, but also having that clear communication between the client and the multiple artists, and as the main artist.
Yeah.
Also, like, really important to have that communication, like, hey,
100%.
this is what we're doing, just CC them.
Yeah.
Like,
just CC them.
just
CC them.
like CC them.
Please.
Well, something that I would also recommend too, and something that I do as well, is when I send a contract, I will name who the other person is. I will give their email. I will give their website. I will give their Instagram, because I'm like, I want you guys to see who else is going to be coming.
Because this is going to be the expectation. This is what this person can deliver. So please check it out.
Like, look at how great their work is.
Yeah.
Look how awesome this is. This is I want to brag.
Yeah. And like, I don't know if you remember this, Erin. Did we do this when we did the law firm where we had like we had a meeting too, like a video call with all the artists and the corporate that was hiring us. So just to be clear, this is what we're doing. This is what we're personalizing. It's gonna be this time and this time. And
days, like, what the expectation is, and it just makes
there's
so much easier.
Yeah, there's no broken telephone. There's no like, oh, am I supposed to be there? This location or that location? Just everything's there. This is the great thing about being so transparent without hiding the client's contact. Like
100%, 100%. Like, it's clear, concise communication. Yeah. Oh, I love. Oh, it's so good.
Everybody's happy, right? The client's happy. They have like
everyone is happy.
I trust them, and it makes
exactly.
Yeah.
And even if, to play devil's advocate, even if they don't want to CC me on an email, okay, having that memorandum of agreement that I have with, I'm like, girl, all I need is here, okay?
Exactly. Yeah.
Keep my email inbox clean. I don't need to be CC'd. It's fine. I know what I need to do. I'll show up.
Yeah,
I will show up. Thank you very much.
Yeah,
that's it. I will say hello.
Because that little like 2-pager, that's another show and not tell. She's showing you that, like, hey, like, we're equals. We're here to play together nicely in the sandbox. Like, that's a role modeling thing, to be like, hey, this is how I think our relationship should be. And if you're like, wow, that feels good to me, then you're also going to reciprocate, right?
Yeah. And I poached that paper so fast. So quickly.
I mean, I've actually shown up to a subcontracted job where the client greets me with a surprised face. They're like, oh, you're not who we thought you were. And I'm like, oh, hi, I'm Isabel. I'm the artist today. And they're like, to me before. And I'm like, that's okay.
I need them to know who I am. I need them to know my name, please.
Yeah, I mean, just at the bare minimum, just even if you didn't go as far as to say like, oh, this is Isabel, this is her portfolio, like, is this cool with you for me to whatever? Like, even if you didn't do any of that stuff, at least like let them know, like, by the way, on this day, this person named this is gonna be there.
Yeah.
That's just a transparency thing. Like, it's so simple and so clear. If we are even neglecting to do that, like, can I tell you how I felt when somebody is like, who are you? That didn't feel good.
Oh, it doesn't feel good. You're like, oh, okay.
Oh.
All right. Well, next time I'll wear a name tag, just one of those like sticky.
Yeah.
Just like, hi, my name is. What was the other thing? There was, I think, Isabel, you wanted to mention something, that there was where you were working with someone else, right? Am I crazy?
Yeah. I kind of like mentioned the story in an earlier section already, but there was one thing I left out, which was the fact that, like, when the client asked me, like, hey, like, can we have more of these things done on site? Like, is that a possibility? Are you open to hiring another person to come and join the job? And I didn't respond to the client right away. I just went and asked people for their availability, right? It's like, hey, are you free? Are you free? The people who, one person agreed and said they're free, they're available. And I asked them what they wanted me to quote. Because like back to my point about like the rate thing, like I could go ahead and just like double what I was quoting. And I just like took a step back. I was like, oh, maybe that's not what they're comfortable with. I don't know. Like I'm just gonna ask. And I did tell them, like, by the way, this is what I've quoted. The clients basically agreed to that. So I think it's okay to just double that. But like just let me know what you're comfortable with. Right. And then they did give me a different number and a different capacity than I can deliver. So they're like, I think this number makes sense to me. That's what I'm comfortable with. And we had that conversation. So like in that, to your point, what we've been talking about this whole time is just to like have that conversation. Don't assume, have that conversation when the opportunity comes. Talk to your fellow artists and just see what works for them, what works for you. And when she has confirmed all these things, then I presented her in the email saying like, this is the person, this is her portfolio, she is free, this is the rate, da 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 da. And I outlined it. And then the client took that information back, came back to me and said, like, we'd like to move ahead with both of you at whatever number you guys have specified, right?
Awesome. That's so
amazing. Cool. Yeah. And actually, this is why I even wrote the story in, was because I did kind of encourage her to like up the pricing a little bit. I was like, I think we could go a little higher. I know this is the number you want to quote, but like, can we just do a little bit more?
Yeah.
And I wanted to like show, an artist like that's possible. Like, I think we can. And again, it's like a risk, right? If I had quoted a number that she was not cool with, and we lost her portion of the job, that would suck, right? And then that would feel like, oh, I lost her the job because I quoted too high. And so that's the territory I didn't want to get into. It was like, I didn't want to just quote something that they weren't okay with. But like we kind of like worked that like middle ground up, and then she agreed to it. We quoted it and we got the job. So it's like amazing. This is a great success story, and I really want to share that because this is just like, it's feel good. It's a feel good story. I want to be able to like role model this for other artists, that it's possible. Like we can work together.
Yeah. And sometimes like again, like they don't know how much they could quote, even though their quality is so good, because it's like a different industry, which happened recently as well. And I just mentioned to them, this is how much I've been like quoting, and and then this person can like hit the same capacity that I could. So like it was like I was able to double that. So things like that. Sometimes there needs to be conversation. Sometimes it is uncomfortable to talk about money. I will say that
it is.
Yeah,
it's
very uncomfortable.
So, but I gotta put my big girl pants on. I just gotta do it sometimes.
But like right. So, but like we also want other artists to know that like I think it could be such a high value because people are demanding this, and you could definitely charge this much. And it's just the conversation just needs to happen and be transparent.
100%.
And there's been conversations where you ask where we ask another artist and they're like, oh, if I've been invited on a job, like I'd be okay with taking less. And then we say like, I'm not okay with it.
Yeah. I'm like,
no,
okay with
I don't want to do that.
You might be okay with it. And maybe you're saying you're okay with it because you're being polite, but I'm not cool with that.
Yeah. There's an empowering moment when you tell them like, I don't think that's okay, but this is how I would do it. Right. And then they probably like, oh wait, you could
like, oh well, that's usually how whenever I get up on my soapbox and I have like, and I rant about something, like my thing is always just like, I just want people to know there's other options. There are other ways to do things. And listen, if you don't like the sound of my voice saying anything, that's okay. That's fine. Like that's totally cool. Like I'm not going to be everyone's cup of tea when it comes to that stuff, but I would always rather err on the side of I want people to feel like they are valued in the role that they are playing in the success of whatever it is. Like empowering that other person who might be newer. There's someone that I know. Their work is chef's kiss, so beautiful. Okay. And I know that they don't charge enough. And I have been like, listen, your work is so good. Please raise your rates. Like, I don't think you know how good you are. And they're like, what do you mean? I'm like, please. I'm not just saying this to be nice. Like, please bring them up. Like, you're so good. And like, I think that attitude of like abundance, an attitude of like not having a scarcity mindset, and just like, we don't have to fight for scraps. Everyone can be successful if you are having a learning mindset, if you are trying to do your best to improve. Like, there is enough at the table for everyone. Really, there is. And like, if you are like determined enough, you can, like, there is a place for you at the table. Please. I want you come bigger, more people. Build me more table, and then more people can come. Incredible.
Come to the big kids table.
Yeah.
You're welcome. You're welcome here.
Where
Come on
everybody's
over.
fair.
You don't have to sit there.
No, you don't have to sit all the way over the kitty to come to the big man, and then bring chairs, and then other people can bring their own tables, and it'll be great. That's like, that's all. I just want that to happen. Like, I'm just such a
I love it. No, I love it.
Such a yapper.
It just, when we have this table, we build a very supportive community, and then when we do that, we lift each other up, and it's a win-win-win. Nobody gets used, nobody gets taken advantage of, and because of that, it's more sustainable in the long run.
Oh yes.
Like,
I don't feel like, listen, I don't want to be burnt out. I'm not that old yet.
no,
You can't tell because there's lots of lights on me, so it's hiding my wrinkles. But like, I just like, I don't want to be burnt out by the time I'm like, whatever age you think I am. That's it. Like, I want more people to be able to do this as a thing, because it's so much fun. I get so much joy out of it. I get so much energy out of it. In case you haven't noticed, I'm a big extrovert. So love me an event. I know, shocking. Never. I know you never would have guessed. But if someone else wants to come into that, that's awesome. That's incredible, and I want them to succeed. And like, the only way, the best way, in my opinion, to do that is to like connect with other artists, talk to people, be friends with people. It's not just transactional. Support and like win-win. We can do it. We're so cool. We're such a fun. We're so cool. Yay.
And like, don't like make assumptions. I think I've said this before in another episode. I don't remember the context, but like, don't make assumptions about other artists, especially in your local market or community. I feel like, that gets to us a little bit. Like, if we haven't personally talked to another artist before, we tend to see them like almost like unapproachable or intimidating, or maybe they're like, you see them in like a slightly negative light. Like, you don't know this person yet. Just approach them. Just talk to them.
I have a story about this, about both of you. Okay.
Oh,
Because I was just like, these people are so good, and I don't know if I can be friends with them, because I can't believe that they would be nice. And like, that is just like a thing. Like, that's 100% true. Like, 100%. I have such a tiny corner of the internet, and I'm just like, I don't know, people care about Instagram counts and whatever and followers, and I don't know if you guys do, but I'm like, I think they're fun. Maybe I can talk to them.
I think they're fun.
maybe they'd be nice to me. So I just was like, I just want to be friends. I was like, I want to be friends with them, but I don't know how.
This is my point. It's like, I think for people we don't know, we immediately assume, I don't know why this is, we assume they're not nice, or we assume they're gonna take advantage of us, or we assume if we like open ourselves up and like release some information about ourselves like that, it's gonna be a bad thing. I'm like, and I've finally like tried to let that go a little bit more each time and just invite the conversation. And I'm like, let's just go for a coffee. Like, it's cool. Let's just meet each other. Like,
yeah, exactly. I mean, I wish I could be. I just, we all live across the country from each other, but the point is still the same of just like, oh, let me just try and say hi. Maybe they'll say hi back. Hi. 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 And like that's how it was. I was like, oh, they're like nice. And they like talk back to me. That's awesome.
oh, wait a second. They're nice.
Wow.
We can be friends. That's fine.
We can be friends now. That's it though. Because like I mean, I as an extrovert as I am also insecure sometimes. I'm just like, oh, I don't know. But like just reach out and say hi. Yeah. Like it's just be nice and just try and be friends with people. And like if they don't want to be friends with you, that's also fine. But just like you never know.
Actually, yeah, that's also very true. Like you might just like your personalities might just not jive. Not like you dislike each other, but like we just find friends. It's the same thing as finding other personal friends. Like some friends will just drive and some friends will just not be as good of a personality click. It's totally fine.
It doesn't mean they're a bad person. It's just like,
yeah,
okay, that's fine.
Yeah.
I tried. Well, I tried and it didn't work.
It's okay.
It's okay. Like very Eeyore, like
that's what it is. I'm like, I feel like we're all doing the same impression of some animal, but like
it is Eeyore. Yeah, like just like the sad Eeyore, just like
and the deep voice.
I'm also kind of imitating my brother, just as it's like a
full
mix.
Disclosure.
It's a bit of Eeyore. It's a little bit of my brother. I think I've just kind of almost lost the plot because it's late.
It's me and Erin, it's like it's past midnight.
It's past midnight.
So we're like,
I'm just here. I'm a little delirious. It's fine.
Well, thanks for staying up.
Get me off camera now before I can say something silly.
All right. So okay. So let me close it up. So we've talked pretty I think it's a really good topic. If everybody wants to share their feedback, their comments, please feel free to DM us. Follow us on our Instagram, the Event Ready Pod. Share your feedback, share your comments, share your experience. If you want to be anonymous, feel free to DM us, and then we can maybe they could be like an additional topic that we need to talk about that that we didn't touch upon. And so before we end, so I wanted to mention, Erin, how can people find you? Where can people
hold on. I'm gonna do the thing. Just do this. Kabam!
So that's her handle.
So effective.
Oh yeah, hold on. Let me turn off my little my whatever the filter background thingy. Hold on, there are things in the way.
It blurs
there we
it
go.
out.
Yeah, it blurs it out.
Yeah.
Now it's there. Now it's nice and clean.
Please read it out to the people who are not watching.
Yeah.
Neilson Letters. Neilson. Not NIE. Neilson. Letters. Letters. On all of the social medias. If you want to follow me there, or www.neilsonletters.com. If you are a client and you want to hire me, hi.
Oh my god, that was so smooth. Well done.
I love that.
Exactly. So it's there. It's all the things. If you're on the YouTubes, it's that stuff that's there.
Yeah. Please make sure you follow her. And yeah, she shares a lot of great information on her website. She has a blog as well. And Isabel, where can people find you?
I'm only on Instagram because that's all I can handle at Isabel Duzman. And you know what? If people didn't know how to pronounce that yet, it's Duzman. DUSMAN. And also at www.isabelduzman.com.
And you can find me at Roseanne Art, which is on Instagram and TikTok. But then I'm really just like consuming TikTok. I don't really post a lot. It's more like cross-posting, but not really care. I'm just there for the drama and
I'm just there for the memes.
Exactly.
That's it.
But I'm my business, professional one, is actually on Instagram, and you can also find me on my website, just the same, www.roseanneart.com. And don't forget to follow us on Event Ready Pod, and we are on Apple Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and
yes,
YouTube.
you are. Yeah.
Oh my god,
iTunes.
iTunes.
Reviews, guys.
I was gonna say iTunes, but they don't even exist anymore.
Yeah, exactly.
That's right.
Yeah.
Please do a rating for us.
Yes, please. Would love that. If you could rate us, that'd be
Mhm.
great. And we will see you next time in the next episode. Thank you for listening to our pod.
You guys are the best. Thanks for having me.
Bye.
Bye.